Like, your mind is about to be blown.
Hello! What the fuck is going on? Hey guys, welcome to GUI, live and fucking unleashed. It's crazy, we fucking talked about doing a live show a little while back and sort of having to maintain the strictly live and unleashed, uncensored, if you will, because there are some things that will inevitably be edited out of a YouTube video, but if it's live, well, you can't edit it. Indeed. It's 7:02, running a couple. I'm not going to confirm or deny whose fault that is, but that's okay. They will forgive you. They will forgive you. In the meantime, start up some of this Nioh gameplay we got going on here. This is probably footage of Mike if I had to guess. There we go. Probably getting his ass fucking kicked. Oh. And bam. Sick. We got some beer.
You need a beer? You need a beer?
Could use a little bit more. Never enough beer.
No beer. What matter of
Beer.
beer? Yeah,
For
it's beer.
everyone. I hope
Delicious
you're
beer.
having a fucking beer,
Hope
dudes.
everyone's drinking beer.
Just dropped off a pile of them. It is magic indeed. Nothing is happening in here, that's why. We are nowhere doing nothing with nobody. However, incidentally, there's some cool Japanese game playing in the background. Nioh 2.
You want a drink there, buddy? Oh yeah, let's talk some shit about Nioh 2.
Fucking,
Did we talk about that last on Saturday?
I believe we did.
Did we play on that day? Oh, we did. Yeah.
We did.
Then how did we talk about
Nioh 2 has been great.
My heart is still connected to my body.
Down for that, bud. Comes fucking Magic Mike, the fucking beer delivery man.
Magic Mike and the beer. The beer fatty. So. Oh, sorry. Just give me one more second.
The king of fucking. This problem before the stream is having a couple beers and having it already start to go through you. If any of you have had more than a few beers in succession, you will know the agony. Well, it seems there is, you can't see it now because we are not here, but there's a slight bit of Fort Liquor going on over here, which is our wall of surrounding beers. What is this? We have Nickelbrook Brewing. This is a pineapple sour. Very nice. 3.9% alcohol. I think I'm gonna have one of these. While Mike empties the contents of his bladder, leaves me to dry, even though I am not a good host, more of a co-host. But I'll do my best to fill in for the time being. While he takes a nice deposit. I'm making a case for catheters during the show. Just wire it up. You just have to pour the beer down your throat and have it just fix it out the one end. I think that would be a good idea. I'm going to suggest it at the next meeting. The next investor meeting for sure.
Okay.
Mike, what do you think about getting catheters?
Catheters.
Just for the show.
Catheters. The thing that you insert into your urethra so you don't have to piss.
Well, yeah, you just piss into like a sack, right?
Well, I mean, you can do it. I wouldn't.
you wouldn't.
If you really want to. You know, if that's what your thing is.
Just for the show.
I'm good.
You're good.
If I had to, I would just work at it. I wouldn't shit.
No.
Just say it. For anyone interested in knowing.
There you have it. Mike denies the catheter, but he's a fan of diapers. Pissing in diapers, not shitting. I don't think I would shit in a diaper either.
Smear up.
That would just be fucking. Oh, that would be disgusting.
Yeah, that would be, imagine walking around in that. You know what I imagine? Imagine
Mike,
being at
can
a
we
state
take-
in your life where you're insensate enough that you don't care. That would be even better.
That's
That-
fucking.
now that
oh God, that's awful.
that's well, it's either awful or it's pure bliss. You never know.
Fair enough. Is your mic on? I can't remember.
Tis on.
So-
Tis on. Can we double check the spike there?
I don't even know how.
On OBS.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Bam.
Hello.
Hi.
Just keep yours down there for a sec. Hello. 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 Hello.
Hey,
see,
guys.
It's working. It's working. Okay. Well.
Better late than never, I guess. Gotta ward out evil spirits.
Afternoon and welcome once again to Gaming Under the Influence. I'm Mike. I'm somewhere, and Alex is also, and we're here under the
Also
Green
somewhere.
Dragon brand from nowhere in particular to talk to you about fucking video games once again. Today on the something of February the something.
February the 9th, I
Time is an
believe.
entirely relative concept. I just want you all to
It's
recognize
7:14 p.m.
that. Yeah. In my defense. Yeah.
That's fine. You're allowed.
Yeah. I was thinking about generally today, though, this framework wherein we could approach things because, fuck, you know, I hate, like, I must say, I hate just chasing fucking stuff going on, like, in this,
Yeah.
like, almost this slutty, like, just taking it as for what it is and just trying to shout it back out, like, how are all these-
Regurgitating
yeah,
it
like,
in your own fucking.
all
your
the
own
biggest
stupid
gaming
hot take.
YouTubers are just fucking just expressing their moralistic fucking takes on bullshit all the time. It's fucking awful.
I think
man.
they ran out of unique things to talk about. Maybe there's just like none left in like the creativity tank. Because you think about it, let's say you say like, you know, creativity.
It writes itself, those things.
Maybe like
Mind
it
double,
just
double
becomes
IPA.
impossible to chug out like nonstop. Like there becomes
new
a certain
concepts,
point
of
where you
course, of
fucking
course.
like
Creating
fall
concepts
into,
is tiring.
you know, like
I feel you, buddy.
I
That
don't
is
know,
a
but-
labor. Like, you know, though, it's hard for me to say I sympathize because here we are, fucking making pennies and fucking
literal.
still doing fucking exactly what we think the right thing to do is. Like, I'm sorry, I think you're just a piece of shit if you're fucking there just prostituting yourself to the fucking trends and to what gets you, you know.
Yeah.
Man's got to eat, but fucking a lot of great people starve, so fuck you, right? Like, I don't know what to say, you know? Nobody's fucking... I'm sorry. I refuse to accept that. If you're getting into YouTubing as your career, you're fucking starving in the first place, right? Like,
Yeah.
eliciting my sympathy for your fucking weird bourgeois career in the first place, you know? Cheers.
Cheers.
IPA. Oh, and perhaps on that note, fucking our buddy from fucking Nickelbrook, I think her name was Kayla. Our new rep for this area. She'll be selling us beer from Nickelbrook. Oh shit, I just spilled a little bit of it too. She brought us some fucking interesting samples along with our case of pineapple fucking Uber today. And the one that I'm drinking is called Divine Double. It's a double IPA that I'll fucking tell you how to taste momentarily. Hey, what are you drinking there, bud? Yours is a
mine
Haymaker
is-
IPA from fucking...
That's right.
From Osthouse Brewery.
Osthouse.
in Niagara. They're also fucking cool. The guy who runs it is a nice dude.
Beautiful. Beer and video games. The fucking holy fucking something.
It's a nice one.
Oh yeah.
That is a Divine Double IPA.
We're both drinking IPAs. This is a 8.2%. Holy cow. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was that strong. It
I also
doesn't
got
taste
another
that
one here.
strong, but
Oh, yeah, it does. It's strong. That's the great one about that thing. It's got this nice waft of like grass and fucking fruit to it mostly.
yeah, like it
Yeah.
doesn't of the, you know, stronger beers I've tasted that are very like whoa.
Yeah.
This is a lot easier to go down. It's really nice.
It has a fucking nice acid profile too. You know, not too bitter.
Smooth
It's-
and creamy mouthful. Yeah, I'm getting kind
They
of
got
like
some oats in there. I'm also gonna crack open this fucking Divine Double Imperial Stout with raspberries from Nickelbrook. Haven't had a stout in a long fucking time, and I'm cold today, so I think it would be a good salute again.
Cheers. I don't know if I can do stouts these days.
It's not bad, man. We got here. How strong are you, my
Very
friend?
nice.
8.5. All right.
So what the fuck
take
is,
off,
what the
motherfucker.
fuck is doing, man?
What's new today,
in
man?
Fucking video
What's
games.
new other than our fucking vociferous alcoholism?
That's not new at all. I've been sort of in a fucking Nioh, a little bit of a Nioh 2 kick, unexpectedly, which I believe we already talked about. But aside from that, I've been jamming out Final Fantasy X a little bit more, and a few things stuck out to me that I'd like to ask you about, if you even remember, which I think would be fun. But
Please, yeah,
aside from that, we'll jump into some other shit.
Talking about Final Fantasy.
So I'm gonna fully full on admit that like I'm sort of in the dark about a lot of Final Fantasy X. I've never completed the game, though I've started it 4, 5, or 6 times in my lifetime, and I think I'm at the furthest I've ever been now. But you know the dude with the weird fucking hair, Seymour?
Yeah.
What is he? The fucking like?
He's like the Pope kind of.
Yeah, like he's sort of like this, you know,
Like this
figure of.
Political / spiritual leader, the sacred king, so to speak.
Right. Okay. So you meet him. Where
He's a
at.
summoner as well. He defeated Sin
Is he a
in
summoner?
the past.
Yeah. Okay.
This game, see, fuck. Oh, this is. Oh, okay. Well,
We're going down
this
some
is gonna
shit.
be great.
Hold on.
This is gonna be great.
So he's
This
not
is
the
perfect.
villain
This is
or
perfect.
anything like that. Sin is the villain of the game. Like there's
Depends.
right.
Continue your line.
I don't know. Okay.
Continue
okay.
your thought.
Again, like I'm going in like
Cool,
I
cool.
haven't
No,
read
continue. This is
spoilers
good.
or
This is
anything.
good.
Yeah. So
This is good. We're gonna.
there was a funny part where he talks to Waka, and I almost want to pull it up, and I should have showed you before we started recording, but he says some shit, and Waka was like, but Lord Seymour or whatever, like you can't say that, you're the Lord, like surely you have better answers or whatever the hell he was saying, right? And he's like, just pretend I'm not who you just said I am. And Waka was like stunned. He was like, whoa, like you can't do that. He like this guy was so casual and like nonchalantly just like brushing off his shit. It made me laugh because it reminded me of you. And Waka was like stunned. Like he was like, oh, you can't do that. No, you're better than that. So you were like,
And you know
what's
why?
going on?
Do you
And I
want to
was like,
spoil the
what
whole
fuck?
fucking
No,
thing
tell
for
me.
you?
I don't care. Do it all.
I think I have enough weed left in my pen to fucking make it through this explanation. Man, what's going on in Final Fantasy fucking X is that all of the summoners that have defeated Sin, you know how he just recurs. Seymour has
Right.
defeated him, but he comes back and fucking they all become aware that fucking doing so is fucking part of like that cycle of the fucking world. It perpetuates the world that they live in, but it also guarantees that all that fucking shit will just incessantly continue. Yeah, it's like a fucking
So
a
is
stable
Yuna
feature
the
of it,
current
you know?
summoner, and you're following her? Like
Yeah,
that's what's
she's gonna
happening,
do what
right?
Seymour did, but Seymour's
Right.
done it already, and he realizes the whole fucking thing is stupid bullshit. So now he's just this cynical guy who's got nothing left to him but like, fucking manipulating the thing for his own gain. He's just like fucking going through this fucking bullshit, goddamn fucking thing again. Fuck, it's awful.
That's totally what the vibe
Yeah.
I got from it, and like I was half asleep
what's
playing it, which is kind of a disservice to this game. Honestly, I should play it on like, docked or whatever, or on a console. Like I'm playing on a Switch in bed, and I'm like falling asleep half the time, not paying attention. But anyway, what I remember is he was totally like nonchalant, just like yeah, blah blah blah, oh yeah, okay, Waka, like, and Waka was like, what? Like, no, dude. He's like,
And see, at the end though, what's necessary is that fucking they fucking break that whole cycle, and all of the people and all of the aeons and all the stuff related to Sin, I think, which is supposed to represent like just like the Pale in Disco Elysium, these layers of human abstraction. They are that. That's what they are. Like in the game, literally, that's what they are. And they fucking go away and shit like that, And in the end of it, I guess, just like in fucking Disco Elysium with the characters, fucking alcohol-induced subject death, the solution that is prescribed is like, essentially what it's saying is, yes, you could persist in fucking this distilled life of the reality of the system, and continue like the
continue the motions, just keep
yeah,
the
but
roller coaster
it's
alive.
not- but it's not merely like it's just like, yeah, it's great, but like there's this fucking incessant cycle of feeding occurring. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's not neutral. It's that you're the grist in the mill, and like fucking you can adopt some structural position within it and keep it going. And that's what Seymour did and everybody before him, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, what ends up happening is they just rather choose to die. Tyus is like, no, fuck it. Even though he's a fucking aspect of that, he's like the. He's like Titus, the tarot cards. You know what tarot cards are?
Yeah.
He's like the fool, the tarot card of the fool. He's
Oh,
like that
yeah,
fucking
okay. I
character,
can see
like
that.
self-destructively lusting for knowledge. You know what I mean? Yeah, and he fucking just like the one impelling, like fucking, yeah, well, maybe you're gonna lose your whole status as a summoner. Everything that defines you, your social coordinates, will be abolished by this act. But it's fucking really what rebalances reality, so to speak.
Well, okay.
The real with the capital R, right? Like
Now, I have another question.
Yeah.
Sin is jacked?
Sin is Jack, but also the summoners before him, yes, but most recently Jack, yes.
Fucking weird, man.
Yeah. But I guess it's just trying to say again, like you fucking have these like, it's this like fucking fairly rote, like fairly like commonplace fucking idea. It's like, you know, this guy Nietzsche, that stupid guy with the fucking mustache and the will to power
I've
and
seen
God is dead
pictures,
kind of
yes,
guy,
I'm
and
pretty
fucking,
sure.
you know, he's got this idea that like reality like is such that, you know, you relate to it like in these postures of either the artist or the ass, one might say. You know,
Or
the
the
ass is
ass?
like the donkey, like the ass as in donkey.
Right,
Like,
okay,
you
yeah,
bear
yeah.
the structures of it on top of your back. You just carry them, you know? You're like, fuck, they are what they are. I'm just going to deal with it, you know? This guy, he perceived like the figure of Christ to be the ultimate ass, quote unquote, like somebody just suffering under the weight of reality, unwilling to like. Of course, he misperceived the glorified fucking figure of the same thing, which
Right.
ultimately is, in his whole system, a perfect configuration of the same point. But anyways, he says, you know, fucking, you can be the figure of the ass, or you can be the artist, which would be like the glorified Christ, right? Like you fucking, you take reality as it is, and you fucking say fuck that shit, and you like take it as a stepping stone or a matter, like a sculpturing a marble to sculpt something, you know, different
to
from,
fucking
right? Like
get to a new place and sort
yeah,
of
you know, and it's like this
transcend from there.
yeah, that's
right?
exactly it. This basic tension you can identify in almost every
Yeah.
fucking, you know, plot that's not about stupid people, you know? It's literally like anything that's not about human relationships, just in virtue of being about the development of the action, about the relationship of these basic metaphysical forces of act and potency. I think it reduces to this, you know? And on that basis, like, you can literally take almost anything. That's why, like I said before, you know, there's something fucking marvelous about this, like, aspect of what otherwise we would describe as capitalism. When we apply it to the whole of the world, to society generally, it's capitalism. It's like reducing all things to this quantitative metric that obliterates them all in this evil fucking reductive sense, right? But like when you fucking make something that is a work of art outside of the subject that's meant to engage him, not in an entirely, of course it doesn't obliterate him, but intentionally for the moment of his contemplation, just like when you're thinking about fucking philosophy or going to mass or, you know, having sex or any kind, literally like any of those things, like intentional obliteration, right? Like that's the goal of that shit, right? It's not supposed to be a totalizing construct that obliterates all things and says, no, there's nothing but capital, of course, but like,
Yeah.
that same template applied as almost like a basis for art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what a video game is. That absolute like plane of consistency where you and the subject matter enter in. It's like capital
Engage,
practically,
yeah.
yeah. Like a plane of equivalence, you know? That's why it's fucking amazing. It's so fucking cool how like we can identify these. And both are, the fantastical thing is, both are only possible in the modern age because of technological advancements that enable this sort of quantify, like the fucking equivalence of matter, you know? Like back in the day when there's things like when fucking money is dependent, like when you can only quantify things on the basis of some other solid shit.
The actual,
you know?
real
You fucking are
physical,
limited in your ability to economize, right? Like how far
kinda
can
scary,
you
though.
quantify?
Yeah.
You have to do things like, that's why it's hilarious
Fucking
because,
fucked,
buddy,
man.
before when people wanted to economize, when they wanted to do exactly this, you know what they would do? They would fucking add other metal to their silver. How retarded is that? Just think about the stupidity of that gesture. You have this one stupid thing.
You're cutting it, right? It's like a fucking drug dealer
definitely,
filling it with fucking.
But the difference is cocaine gets you high.
Yeah,
What the fuck does silver do for a guy?
Yeah, you're
You know?
you're cheapening it in the end of the
But
day.
it's just silver.
Yeah.
Like it has no use value, as somebody like Marx would say. Whatever you think of this fucking system, that's definitely true. Cocaine has use
Gets
value.
you fucked up,
Silver, other than it's exactly like it's funny because gold and precious metals were like a previous like a primordial video game or a primordial capital, you know, a primordial ground into which people could like equate things because of their preciousness and their shininess and different reasons or whatever. But at the end of the day, they were still physically limited. It prevented this explosion into it wasn't purely conceptual yet, you know, it was still bound by what you had in the bank, right?
Yeah, it was
gold,
very
like a
limited in
block.
that
So
sense,
now
for
though,
sure.
it's purely like conceptual. You can totalize everything. I don't know when exactly this fucking happened. I think it was in the 20th century, but yeah, the advent of modern capital, when we transitioned to money that was like fucking abstract, no longer representative of
doesn't
things.
actually exist.
Probably exactly at the time when we became capable of doing things like depicting objects in video games, you know? The principle is exactly the same. You come to some plane of equivalence that dissolves both aspects of the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a fucking really, really cool, like, little concept that we got there, you know, that applies to so many different areas of life. It's an explanation of why certain things that go on in the world are bad, why video games are awesome, all of these things all at the same time. That spiral of things into themselves is appropriate and awesome in some places and dangerous and fucked up in other places. But it is powerful wherever it occurs. It's fucking nuts. It's this cycle of things outside of themselves and back into themselves, you know? Fucked up. It can be used for art and something awesome, or it can be used like Microsoft uses a brand, you know? Tapping into something, right? Like, to fucking cycle it in this infinite reproduction of images that becomes attractive for the very fact that its origin is hidden. It's almost godlike. It's like transposed into this like platonic sphere,
Just
right?
like always been there kind of thing.
It's like,
Can you imagine?
it's
Like, if you think
literally,
about
like,
it.
when you close your eyes, like a brand is like a platonic form to the modern mind, you know? It
You
actually
know what's
is.
fucked? If you think about it, like
It
we're
is.
fucking old enough that we've
brand,
seen
bro.
the brand.
We've
like
really seen not only brands, but the technologization of them.
Yeah, like-
them becoming
like-
abstract. Like
that's
they
what I
live in
mean.
Your skin,
but if you
know?
think about like people who were born like now, and then like 10 years from now, that brand has just always been a part of their
Oh,
lives.
like
I
my
mean, there's-
son will be
there's-
like he just embedded in information infrastructure
Yeah.
from the moment of his birth. Yeah. But I don't think
Yeah.
that's necessarily a bad thing. I think
no, it's
really
just
like
fucking
that
it's
equivalence.
nuts. Think about.
The craziest thing is, you know, again, it's so crazy because how powerful is that? Like, I think the medium of video games is essentially just technological equivalence made into art. You know, like you're no longer dealing with the problem of the distinction between sound and sight. Blah blah blah. You have matter. Quantitative equivalence, very much like capitalism turned into economy, but here you're turning it into a medium for art. You want to do that. Like when you fucking do art, your job is to master the fucking matter to your concept in the same way capitalism masters difference, right? Like you want to do that. You want to be the fucking like an equivocating index that takes everything that you see as the artist and fucking sucks it
Puts it
into
all
your
together
goal,
into-
you know?
yeah.
And that's fucking sick. And that's why video games, you know, like when you're painting something, you paint a picture and like you're like, look at this guy, but you see him from one side, right? Like he fades into the wall. You know what I mean? Like the reality is not consummated.
Yeah.
It's always like there's this fucking.
I think that's what's so impressive about
right?
games, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much more to factor into the
Yeah.
you know vision,
Yeah,
the complete
yeah.
goal, right?
The funny thing
to
too, but-
nail it and get it right is fucking almost
It
like
definitely is, but
impossible.
But think about this too. It's not merely a technological thing. You see, it's not like precisely the technology that fucking accomplishes this, right? Like what makes games special is that when you play them, you think in the terms of the other thing. Like to play a game, it demands of you that you say, I am that. I am doing this.
Sort of
you know what I mean?
This fucking
You displace yourself and you
you're-
are
yeah.
thinking as that thing.
Yeah.
That's what you have
In
to do
that
to play it.
world,
Yeah.
in that
Now,
fucking yeah.
technology may make that possible, but may make there be like an external case for you to do that in, maybe is the right way to say it. But the ability for you to do that is human. You know what I mean? Like that's
Right,
innately
yeah.
human, right? It's just technology that allows us to ritualize
Allows
that
you to
in
fucking-
this exterior sense, like in this fully consummated, literally in the exact same sense that like fucking people do religious rituals. Like you imitate the person of the fucking the person you're objectifying or worshiping, right? Like
Right.
it's almost the exact same thing. Like in the act of doing it, technology enables you to fucking behaviorally fucking perform all of these fucking fantastic verbs for the fucking object of what you're doing. It's not merely like you're sitting there when you're reading a book and you're like, yeah, this is fucking great, you know? Like I love reading. Again, don't get me wrong, that is my preferred art form, novels, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
But like it's passive and objective, right?
Yeah.
Like the thing is outside you. You don't get that sexuated, like that fucking consummated, like it's, you know, it's inside you. It's like something snaps and, you know,
no denying
identity
video
fucking
games are
changes. Yeah,
fucking
like
on a totally different level.
yeah, it's a different thing. It's
Yeah.
because it's a mechanism of how they work. Now, oftentimes though, like of course, like, you know, this is why I frequently complain, like it's hard for me to play through video games, bro, because what you do is so stupid. Like, what people do with this capacity is fucking dumb as shit.
Yeah.
Often it's so vomit-inducingly fucking dumb that, like, 5 minutes into something, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you just expect people, like, just to do stuff, you know? They're just fucking, they want to rest their eyes on some shit.
Yeah, just because
What the
you said
fuck
so
is
and
this,
it's
you know?
designed
like,
in
again,
this
like,
manner.
it sounds so... I sound like a fucking broken record, bro, but, like, I play something like Death Stranding, and it's so concerted, you know? It's so purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fucking purposeful from beginning to end. So exactly
Yeah,
like
nothing
on the
feels
mark,
like
you know?
out of place.
It's
in,
not just
in a
this,
game
like,
where
bleh,
everything
like-
is so fucking random and
Yeah.
actually
it's so
like,
long,
out of
and
fucking
you do
place,
the same thing
but-
the whole
yeah,
time.
Yeah,
That's the fucked up
Yeah.
thing, you know? But it doesn't have that element of purposelessness,
Mm-hmm.
that element of self-referentiality. Like, you've just like, you know, that's, I guess, what would consummate its relationship to capitalism, right? When you say that
just a self-feeding
It's
loop
just its
that
own
fucking
loop, yeah,
destroys
yeah.
itself in the end. Yeah,
that eats itself up,
Yeah.
yeah, but fucking, I think, like, games like Kojima games, Souls games, they are violently not
Yeah.
self-referential. They do not work on their own. You know what I mean? Like, they fucking depend so heavily on your extrinsic fucking involvement,
engagement
you know?
and struggle at
Yeah.
that.
And that loop is so frequently, like, the consummation of that loop is, like, the fucking goal of it, you know? It's not a given, right? It's like, it knows that it has this ecstatic potential, you know, like this guy I was talking to you about today would say, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but the sense that, like, fucking now modern simulacra have this ecstatic potential where the loop of fucking identification is total. Like, and in Dark Souls, that's a goal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's not merely like you take it for granted and desensitize the fucking person to it entirely, and it's just like, it is the basis of it. Like, I think that fucking formula is so much more effective. It, like, recognizes what the medium is and fucking the apex of it and the fucking, the lower end, and, like, it fucking builds a proper graph of how that should function, you know?
Fucking A, man.
Yeah. This is some ramblings. I apologize, guys.
Took a nice fucking good
A
little
detour, but
detour.
I guess, though, like, I'm fucking laying all this shit on the table because I think it's like, you know, I'm always looking for new fucking concepts, you know, to apply to these things, right? Like, the general framework, to my mind, stays the same. Like, we're still looking at games as fucking works of art, which, in the context of fucking human beings, like, an artwork, the job of it is to fucking be like a kind of concrete sort of philosophy. Like, you look at it and you fucking see being, you know, not just fucking birds and cows and this and that, but, like, in it, it's like an artifact of fucking crystalline, like, just contemplation, you know? You see other things within it. You fucking communicate with a different reality. And, like, in games, this relationship becomes perfect. It's, like, secular. It's, like, sexuated, you know? You fucking become the thing and the thing becomes you. The cycle is completed. They're a more, like, fucking advanced form of poetry, I would say. And I think, like, this activity fucking, you know, it's easy to scoff at, but it really defines human nature in a lot of different ways. And looking for new ways to define it, looking for new vocabularies, the ideas of different people to apply to it is, to my mind, almost necessary. It's mandated by the fact that reality is always fucking totally different than our words for it, you know? Like, even just, it's obvious to anybody who spends 2 seconds thinking about it. The word coming out of my mouth right now, the noises my stupid flesh are making, you know? Like, that is not what I am talking about. It's not what your mind thinks about when I say those flappy noises to you, right? And I think the difference between those two things is fucking paramount, and something that video games absolutely dissolves, you know?
Yeah.
That's the magic of them. It's the magic of the fucking simulacra. It's something that I've been thinking about lately and fucking trying to apply these different concepts to. And I think, like, you know, people, like, talk about this literature I've been reading. It's this guy, Gene, I don't give a fuck, you know? I'm not going to sit here and apologize for my pronunciation, but Baudrillard, I say his name as. And he's famous for fucking having this concept of simulacra that inspired, apparently, in some stupid ass sense, the fucking movie The Matrix, you know? This point at which reality and it's fucking The Matrix is very much not actually a depiction of simulacra at all, because the real reality is still very much real, and at the end they have a war where real reality beats the machines, and it's very much not a true depiction of it. But that's how people usually represent this as, right? But it's very fucking it's the perfect language to describe video games as, you know? Like, I previously resorted to this language of virtual ritual, which I still think is appropriate, but like this guy uses the phrase tactical mysticism, which is fucking way better. This idea that tactically by your operations, mysticism means the fucking like the face-to-face engagement with something. It's like kind of a contrary to philosophy, which is abstract. Mysticism is like this.
Yeah,
Philosophy is
concrete.
Like this.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect way to describe it. That's what you do with video games. Every other kind of fucking artwork still is more philosophical, I would say.
Where
know,
you
it's
sort
distance.
of like a
You're an observer.
like a fucking painting that you look at. And
You're an
sort of
observer. Ultimately, the Cartesian
for
theater
yours.
of pains. You're an observer,
Right, okay.
right? You're on the outside, but in games, you're fucking in there, you know?
You're in there
and
like a
this
dirty
is like,
shirt.
how do you articulate this in the terminology of other philosophies? It's very difficult, right? You
Yeah.
know, it's hard to talk about this fucking place where, due to a certain fucking function within the semiotic technology itself, the system of signs, like the difference between the sign and the thing is almost incorporated into the system, right? Like that's a novel thing, you know? It's been applied in fucking, many people have fucking struggled to talk about this, but I'm just trying to say, like, I know for a fact nobody in video games, and definitely not in the fucking philosophic schools that I so far have used to talk about it. So it's great to fucking always explore new philosophies, I'm trying to say, and lately I've greatly benefited from this one specifically. You know, it's fucking sick. It's cool for talking about video games. Great fucking map of how the fucking shit works, you know? I don't think it's a fucking really an adequate description of reality. I think it's a dystopia. It's a description of where reality is moving, not how it actually is.
Dystopias are the best.
It
We
is-
pretty much live in one right now.
Yeah, we do live in something approximating this, but all that
That's
aside, though,
fucking-
this is how video games function, you know?
Yeah.
They take the fucking subject and the object, and they fucking interpolate them into each other. The subject is the object is the subject. If you don't have that living cycle between them, that's why a monkey,
Doesn't work, yeah.
you know, probably unless he knows he's a monkey. I don't know if there are monkeys like that. I'd like to meet them and shake their hands and talk about being with them if there are. But unless there's that kind of monkey, like I'm just trying to say an unintellectual animal couldn't play a video game because he
Right,
can't
yeah,
interpolate himself into something else. He's like, what, can I eat this? Can I fuck it? Like, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
strictly fucking.
yeah, it's strictly
instincts,
instinctual.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strictly like in its own place, localized, you know?
What do I do?
So-
Just smash it,
Yeah.
eat it, fuck it, try and open it, see if anything's inside.
So on this principle, though, like what we're saying is that fucking games work this way, but they are also within a cycle that also works this way. Like games work this way. That means they build their own little cycles of fucking self-sufficient awesomeness, which I would call autotelic art, you know? But they function within a capitalist system, which, just as we previously said, in a global sense, reduces things to a quantitative metric. So we have this fucking little battle between like the fucking little circles within it, the little kingdoms of art, you know, and the broader fucking war of like capitalist fucking the broader war of the systems structurally like going to town on itself, you know, like fucking like redefining itself in terms of its binary opposites and growing, progressing, you know, if you still believe such a thing is possible, like producing, right? Like inflating itself, right? So I think that's generally like fucking our framework for looking at games in relation to the industry, right? Like we ought to fucking expect of a good game that it recognizes that, you know, it's caught up in this river. It's not paddling upstream, so to speak. You know, we can't expect that really, like as much as we might want to see some
it's
kind of
not
fucking like
trying to win you over
Yeah,
based on
I want to see like
market
the,
considerations or any other bullshit. Like it's
rather like we
it's
can't
a-
expect somebody to fucking come along and make something that's, you know, in the AAA space that's totally against the fucking the system, because that's ridiculous, right? That's you're trying to fight the system with the system. It doesn't make any fucking sense. You know, we can't expect that as much as I would like to see it. But at the same time, you can expect though that you build these like concurrent systems, you know? You can have something that still has its own self-sufficient little circle in the sense that it's still wholesome and advisable, right? Like a work of art should be ultimately, just like philosophy and intentional contemplation should always be a closed circuit. Like what you want to do is bleed into the thing you're contemplating, you know? In video games, I would argue, of course, fucking extensively do this in a sense that other forms of art are not capable of, and other and that contemplation is not capable of because it's abstractive. Just definitionally, it doesn't accomplish that, right? It's not, its job is not to do that. Its job is to tell you about something universally, not fucking shoot you into the heart of it, right? Like an arrow. So Video games are fucking really good at that, and that's a framework like that I think we should use to interpret art in a lot of different fucking instances in the industry. We have a fucking thing on our website about how the best hope for business is for fucking designers to realize that they exist within such a system and to feed it with some of their fruit and save the rest of the fucking shit for itself, right? Like to try and build barriers between
and appropriate,
you know?
fucking.
I think
balance.
ultimately, like this may be a losing battle. I don't mean to say it's not. Like that's a different fucking topic altogether. Like maybe the beast cannot be fed sufficiently, and it will.
I think nowadays, yeah.
It's possible. Like we may be building to that point. I'm just trying to say, like, if you do adopt a doctrine, if you're in any position to adopt a doctrine of engagement with the system, that must be it. Like, you don't want there to be an affordable relationship, a differential relationship. Like in a game, you want to bleed into the thing. You know, you want to bleed into what you're playing, but the game and the money shouldn't bleed into each other, right? They should remain distinct. And
Yeah. So
distinct,
like,
you know?
what you're saying? Like, the creative, hive mind has to be independent, basically, from the financial.
I think there should be a
fucking side of
cooperation
things,
and
right?
not a
There's-
total
there's-
like fucking
yeah.
equivocation. They
There-
shouldn't bleed in. They shouldn't be totally dissolved into
I think,
each other.
but I think the more like when you say like the perfect division is the creative team has 100% control over the creative decisions and the financial department has 100% control over just the financial. You know what I mean? Like publisher,
Honestly, like-
creative. I think that's like the perfect, but like that'll never happen
I
nowadays.
understand what you're saying. I think it's hard to even fucking map out exactly what, like, coming to the ground of it. Like, it's easy to say in principle the fucking this is how it should be, but coming to the
Right.
ground of it's difficult. But I guess though we could probably say
How
like,
much-
What about like a situation where
How much bleed is allowed? Like,
isn't that it? Like, what about a situation where there was some kind of contractual fucking obligation from the start to make a certain kind of thing?
Well, yeah, that's,
And that
that's
was the extent of it. Like, it's ridiculous to me to have fucking such things as, what the fuck? I always look and think to myself, like, where do these fucking people get off thinking they even know what the right thing is? Look at all the games ruined by fucking monkeys in suits, right?
On
Like,
which side you're talking about?
I mean,
on the...
like Patrick Suderland and fucking all of these other
yeah,
monkeys
see,
at EA.
but that's the thing. But then,
You know?
then am I right?
They
Like,
never
should-
fucking.
should
They never played. Or dude.
No,
my
100%,
daughter played
I agree
fucking-
with you.
Oh, what are you talking about?
because
Like,
that guy probably has not even spent close to as much time as us or anyone listening to this as amount of time that we've spent like playing video games. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, and even if they did, they'd probably still fuck it up. But so is like what I'm saying right, that all creative control should be in creative people's hands, or is there a little bit of blending and bleeding that should take place for a publisher to say, hey, this might work or this should work? Like you said, if something's in the contract from the get-go that needs to be this, like how much of that is okay?
I think like I just was talking about this kind of thing the other day. This sense in which like when you're using somebody else's words, I wrote something about it on the website. Like your job should be like this one philosopher, Deleuze, he uses this metaphor that you should come up from on the fucking author from behind and like impregnate him with your concepts, And this fucking strange and dark metaphor. Like what I'm trying to say with this is your approach to like fucking profit making. Like I think for sure there should be boundaries. Like no respectable developer will do certain things, which I'm not going to list off here. Everybody can probably figure it out.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's important to establish at the beginning of some kind of relationship like that what is expected, such that then the guy making the art part can take those conditions and incorporate them into the matter of his concept.
From the get-go.
He can build it. He can
Yeah.
take that. He can be like, I need to talk in a certain language. This is what I'm going to say. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
thereby saying something that's not fucking impeded by the form that is necessary to
Because
express
it's
in that matter,
conceptualized
right? Like,
from the
yeah,
get-go,
yeah.
right? Like
Hopefully
it's
that
been-
will
yeah.
ameliorate
That
the
makes
tension
sense,
between
yeah.
those things, right? Like,
But
yeah.
I think you're 100% right. Even just the case of Anthem, when you look at Anthem from that long fucking article we read years ago after launch, that like Mr. fucking Patrick Guy Soderlund would walk in to and they would have a fucking presentation of gameplay ready for him, and it was literally just based on his opinion, and his opinion was like, no,
What
this
is that?
is shit.
What?
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, is what worth
Now,
is
again,
that?
I don't
of
advocate any kind of boardroom game design.
some
Literally, I think I
fucking-
would advocate the anarchy of that artist. Like, dude, this guy is in no way qualified. If BioWare thinks they should do it, I'm not saying they know what they're doing. They
Yeah,
honestly don't.
yeah, again,
but all
like-
I'm saying is that guy knows less. He definitely knows less.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fuck you, man. Fuck
That's
you.
the point. Like, not to
You know?
say that BioWare knew what they were doing and had a good product on their hands,
No.
because they
But you ask him.
probably didn't. But yeah, if you had to
ask that
find
guy.
out, he's the worst person. And the reality of the situation only compounds and then tells us that, like, we were right. He is the worst.
Dude, we were
because
saying
his
that months
suggestions
before.
didn't save anything. Fuck all, nothing. And that game is still now, like, there's not been a single piece of good news or press going on about that game. Everything that since its inception has been a shitstorm. It'll go down in history as like the next fucking E.T. on the Super Nintendo.
It definitely will.
You remember that shit? How they like allegedly buried a bunch of copies in the fucking
Yeah.
desert in New Mexico or whatever the
Yeah.
hell it is. But anyway,
I don't know, man. It's strange. It's almost like
fucked up.
I don't even see why, like, from the perspective, suppose I was in the perspective of the capitalist and I just wanted to make money off of a video game. Why would you even think the profitable thing to do is to let that guy choose the kind of game that's being made, make any decisions related to the
that
game?
to me just seems like a lazy thing. Like, oh, you got this guy in this high position, and for whatever reason, you just trust him to make the decision because he's getting paid to do that. Like,
What is his function?
But that's
Like,
what I'm saying. Like,
what are
in
these
a
people?
real
What is this
fucking
machinery?
that's
know?
the thing. In a real life situation, like if you're thinking logically, like if you ran this company and like this is the person who you're designating to, like, if you had any idea what the fuck you were, thinking to hire this guy, it wouldn't be that guy. It would be somebody else, somebody that knows. And if you're, like, I don't know, it just I can't even put into words. You know what I mean? Like.
It seems to me that
It's
that
like
guy's
down the
role
line
is totally
you go.
not.
The higher
that
up you
guy's role
go,
is
the more
either-
disconnected
His role
they
is
are.
either extra, it's either superfluous, or it's destructive.
Definitely, 100%
It's either superfluous or
Oh, no.
dangerous. There's no way that it's
Oh,
good. Like what
both,
the fuck?
but it's both
Man,
at the end of the
honestly,
day,
like,
like-
this is totally a separate subject altogether. But like just that mode of organizing money to complete jobs that this occurs in is
It's
fucking
fucking
stupid as fuck.
greasy, but then,
it
like-
only serves inflating the number, and it destroys everything used to inflate that number. Now, do you care about numbers?
Do I care about numbers? No, fuck numbers.
I take numbers and I turn them into drugs. Into fucking books and other things that are fucking actually worth a goddamn. So fuck you and fuck your numbers, you know? I'm going to eat you and your numbers.
Yeah,
bud.
right?
You know, fuck
I'm
you.
sure
Like,
Kojima.
what is that?
I'm sure Kojima
Right? Like,
would say the same fucking thing.
I don't even like, not even, I literally, the general concept of numbers, I don't give a fuck, you know?
Yeah.
The medium, the quantifiable medium is should not be religiousized. You know what I mean? Like that's fucking, that, I think like we could restore so many fucking proprieties in the industry if fucking people just like accepted from the get-go that, like, you know, as a fucking analogy, most fucking trying to think of a way to insult people without sounding too outrageous.
Yeah, it's
most people
alright.
might accept, you know, like in the same fucking sense you afford protected identities a certain degree of respect and distance because of their status. I put it to you that, like, fucking as stupid money grubbing fucking capitalists, we should be able to afford that same respect to fucking people making a work of art, especially if we expect it to make money afterwards.
Still fucking
you
be
know?
able to put out a good fucking
Yeah,
thing
man.
and fucking
Again,
make money.
in the same-
I
like,
mean,
you
it's
know,
never.
like-
It's crazy. Like, to me, like, obviously, there's never like a really sick good thing. Like, name one of the best video games of all time that didn't make money. It goes without saying. Probably usually
there might be a few. There might be a few.
There might be a few.
There
Yeah,
might be a few.
maybe
There
I'm
might
wrong.
be.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But not many. I get your point.
But you know what I mean?
Most of
Something
them
that's
are
good,
they make
people
a
know
shit
is
ton of
good,
money, yeah.
and it makes money.
No, I get
Instead
you.
of chasing fucking something that already made money and is good, like try and make something good that is good because it's good.
That's a good
and
point
because,
too. You know,
like,
you know what you bring up now, like fucking. This is a really good point. Like, most things can work. You know what I mean?
yeah.
The point is, in their median points, most things end up making
Kind of
nice
like
shit. You know what I mean?
living within your means.
You
You know?
know?
What I mean? Don't overshoot.
Yeah. I guess
Like-
the evil of most things is the fucking excesses that they enable. You know? the ways in which they let things get out of hand, like communism or capitalism or all of these fucking.
Yeah, when it starts spiraling out of control and it starts
The
like,
excesses that they enable.
it's almost like a ride that you can't stop anymore. It's like, ah!
The ends
You know?
to which they fucking utterly religiously devote everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very strange. Very interesting, you know?
This turned into from
It
GUI, Gaming Under the Influence, Live and Unleashed, to like philosophy about the game industry, Live and Unleashed. But that's
this is
fine
important,
because
though. This is
that's what it
important shit.
can.
Now,
It can be whatever it
now
wants to
do you
be.
still have a little bit of time?
I do, but can you solo for like a minute
I
and
can,
a half?
of course. Yeah, fucking of course I can.
My leg.
I
is
can't read
asleep,
any of your
and
messages right now because I'm actually
because
blind.
you canceled the catheter order. I have to get up and pee.
No problem. Yeah, I canceled the catheter order. That's human degradation right there. I apologize.
Right, and now my foot's asleep.
How are you, friends? I'm gonna be talking to my fucking self and to you.
Okay, talking to yourself is good. I promise it's healthy.
Yeah, I don't mind at all.
Oh, my leg.
Yeah, so when this project began in 2019, April 2019, I believe, it was my birthday. Around then, we started the first episode. It was pretty philosophically myopic, one might say, like, in terms of the technology of thought that I employed, you know? I'm still philosophically myopic, formally. But back then, I only knew one language, you know? It was as though other resources, my only reaction was to them was to develop an adequate defense mechanism, you know? Like a white blood cell. But now, you see, I've realized the far more effective mechanism of engagement with difference is subsumptive, you know? And this is due to the exigencies of the object of study itself, which is being. Being is essentially different. You know, when you think of being, think of the concept being. You are a being, a flower is a being, a tree is a being, my kid is a being, this beer is a being. Everything is a being. The being itself, the concept being, which is not merely, as never mind what disparaging concepts I might apply to continental philosophers like Kant, but whatever they might think. It is the first and foremost qualification of things, you know, more real than our distinction between self and other. And it's essentially diverse when you think it. It's like, as my favorite philosopher, Mighty Ten, says, like thinking a bird greater than the world, a liquid crystal, you know, flowing with internal differences. It cannot be so denatured that there is only one meaning left for it, Lagrange says. And I think this is the special nature of video games. I think in video games, suppose one were to desire to embody this object, this metaphysical object, in an instance, in a work, in something. Suppose you wanted to paint it. Would you not exclude the audible aspects? Suppose you wanted perfect diction and poetic writing, and would you not exclude those? Like, that's why I think games are kind of like a totalizing plane of consistency for concepts. That's my divergence. I don't even remember where I started. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Alex is back.
Buddy, my next Google search is going to be how to fucking turn myself into a
Man.
camel.
I think like I could sit here all night and
That
just
was-
fucking talk.
oh,
my
I
own
noticed.
relationship to myself is this like infinite cycle of simulacra. Sometimes it's terrible.
No, your buddy.
So many powerful
Fear and
drugs out
Loathing.
there.
What's his name?
Hunter?
Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you're him reincarnated. Just please don't kill yourself.
I won't kill myself.
All right then. Good stuff. So,
The best kind of killing yourself is symbolic death. Think about that.
right on.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then I'm
Internally
already dead.
face the system.
I'm
Yeah.
already fucking dead.
It's like fucking Zizek says, you know, like fucking. No, he doesn't support this guy Zizek. He's a fucking
I know,
Marxist.
I know,
blah,
I
blah,
know
blah,
what
blah,
you're
blah.
talking about.
He's a leftist, this and that. Why doesn't he support like violent street revolutions? Because he believes that this is inefficient revolution, man. The system, capital, quote unquote, the quantitative metric can totally sublimate that. It has mechanisms to internalize that. It makes money off you being belligerent, you know?
Yeah.
It imprisons you and devours your flesh. Like it's literally, it has mechanisms.
It's already ahead of
exactly
you.
to
It's
account
already
for-
fucking ahead of you. Like
Your
whatever
best
you're doing is
fuck violence.
Yeah.
the most idiot thing one can do is violent. You know, the least thing you can do. You never. What the fuck? What's the best?
Accomplish? What's the best combat?
What kind of moron takes
against
violence
that?
Against another? In this organized sense, perhaps war
Like,
is
just-
another thing.
just do
But
nothing?
You,
Wouldn't that
an
be the best
individual
thing?
man? Oh, I mean, maybe, yeah. But that's another story. But like just to say, in
I mean,
principle,
nothing. Literally nothing. Like, don't go to work. Don't do anything. Just literally
maybe
suck
Not
on
quite,
it as
not
much
quite,
as you
not
can.
quite.
Like,
but at the beginning though, what we definitely can include is physical violence, which is obviously just fucking. What degree of retardation do you have to fucking exhibit to actually undertake physical violence
yeah,
against
that's
the machine?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Not only is it hopeless beyond fucking retort, although there is a symbolic effect, it is hopeless, but it's also not justified, right? Like, it's the nature of man that he lives in society, and you and I as private citizens have no fucking license to violence against other people whatsoever in any
Right.
circumstance, except perhaps self-defense. But literally, you can never take violence against another man. That's part of the social compact. There's all these fucking, stories about like the Christian legions of Rome. They were fucking tasked to sacrifice incense to the gods of Rome, like the pagan gods, and they said no. And the emperor said, "Well, I'll kill you." And he had less soldiers, and they had legions, and they're like, fine, and they just fucking would rather, because sedition is a fucking fight, like violence against the social, like to kill a police, to fight against the social compact is fucked up, right? Like, it's contrary to human nature, but like, what is most effective? You can never, I'm not only can you never triumph against it, it's wrong. Whatever the fucking wrongness of the fucking social compact. The only proper recourse is symbolic violence, to fucking totally renounce your place in that fucking entire vision of reality.
Like
To
a boycott?
No, maybe. Yes, in a sense. Yes, in a sense. But that's why this guy deletes.
I
He
revoke
says,
my participation.
Nah, physical bodily fucking violence is stupid and
Yeah,
useless
yeah,
as
yeah.
fuck.
But that's like,
useless,
cavemen.
useless,
bruh.
useless. Never bodily
Like,
violence. Useless as fuck.
It doesn't work.
The only
Bang,
thing that
bang,
is
bang.
effective is symbolic.
When the TV doesn't work, you smack it. And
Yeah,
fuck
sure. Shaking the TV. It's not working. Yeah, it's
You
fucking.
just bang it a couple of times.
But most important to understand, though, is the system has means to internalize that. You know what I mean? The system accounts for your death. It accounts for your incarceration. It accounts for your stuff.
It already has a
accounts for
plan
those.
in there.
Its
Yeah, yeah,
mechanisms
yeah.
profit off you doing those things.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, it builds. It's internal.
You want to
like,
do that? All right, we take these
think
guys
when you do
throw them in
that,
jail.
not
blah,
only
blah,
that, though,
blah.
but it's like it adds a tick in the register. It's like you press a new button. Every time, like a new input has been registered in the system
God,
by
yeah,
your very
yeah.
resistance. There is no thing you can do bodily. There's no. That's why this guy's same Baudrillard out there. He says Marxism is dead from out of the fucking gate. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're gonna fight capital? Do you think capital's a neutral machine? You're just gonna rearrange its forces and it'll be fucking
It's like-
beneficent in relation to man? No.
They have
You
like
cannot-
the bunkers in StarCraft, where even if
Yeah,
you
no,
try
no.
to,
The point is that it's
luck
this,
getting to
it's
the
like
base,
a hungry
yeah.
beast. It's like an abstraction. It's not a person. No person controls it. It's outside of man. It's an abstraction that man
That's
creates.
scary. That's
that
scary.
devours
That's
man
fucking
circularly.
scary.
That is exactly the thing.
But how do you
That is
like? How does
exactly
that
the thing.
become put into place? When you think about it, it has to have some kind of backing in all of man's contribution
It's essentially
to put
human,
it
though,
into
to
play,
symbolize
right?
like that, right?
ugh.
Essentially, I have this thing on the website that's called The Drama of Being. And what this fucking says, essentially, the essential fucking, you can summarize it in a few sentences, okay? People are finite, but people are intellectual. And being intellectual means that you can anticipate, you desire, you can know that there is a whole spectrum of infinite being.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're finite, you're impotent. You can't do shit. You can't bring
Yeah,
that about.
fuck,
You
man.
want all things, but you're like, you can't do nothing. All you can do is drink yourself into fucking stupidity to forget that you are useless. You cannot do nothing. So what can you do in response? This posture of fucking fucking destruction, of course. Or you can be like what I call the Bourgeois Marxist, because they're the same thing. You can say instead that reality is imminent to a plane of consistent. Reality is imminent, essentially. You can say, no, difference is internalized. You can take everything and fucking blast it inside of some metric. You can create some fucking kind of idea. You can say either reality is such that it's flat and all things are inside it, such that I am no longer impotent because I am reality, or you can say such that it is progressing, that it will become that way, you know? But in both cases, the idea is that there's an imminent plane. It's exactly like a video game, bro. You want to achieve equality between the poles, right?
Right,
Which in a video
right.
game is, of course, the case and desirable intentionally, not even actually. It's not like your body becomes the video game. You're still a substance in distinction from the thing, of course, right? But like, again, in here, the idea is literally that all things melt physically, totally, actually into the index of capital, right? Like, and in so many indexes of life, I think this is probably the only appropriate point. We could bring it back for like fucking a few minutes of conversation
Bring it back
about
to
the
video
industry.
games or keep it in abstract territory.
This totally fucking describes such things as annualized brands, for example. Such things as Microsoft's approach to games. And especially in my mind, the persona that is Phil Spencer. He's not a person, actually. It's a mistake for us to talk about Phil
He's like
Spencer
a
as a person.
sub-brand of the brand, right? He's like
he's
a fucking,
construct.
yeah,
He's like
yeah.
he's a simulacra of a person. Literally, like it's not. I don't mean to be disparaging. That's factually what it is.
Awful to
He's
think
a
about, I
production of a
know.
guy that should epitomize a brand, like Jesus Christ to Christianity. You know what I mean? Literally, that's what
Yeah,
they're going for.
yeah.
Or Lenin to Bolshevism. You know?
Oh God,
Or
yeah.
Stalin to Stalinism, what have you, right?
Why,
Like,
yeah.
in all these cases, right? That. Firstly, like, let's just stop for a fucking second, guys, and think about how disturbing that is in itself.
That's why I haven't said anything
that
for the last
itself
10
is
seconds.
fucked up. It's
I'm
fucked
a little
up.
bit-
That
yeah.
we go in the news and like Phil Spencer of Xbox. Hey, Phil Spencer, Xbox.
Well, because
head.
it's
You
not
know?
because like they in the past you get these business bigwigs and they do interviews and these things and this and that, and they sort of give you a little bit of insight on what the culture is like around the company and where they're going, what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like it's not the same as what it's feels like now, and you could probably put it in better words.
So what
than
you're
I
saying is
can.
Phil Spencer is the attempt of an alien fucking inhuman force to put a human sleeve on itself to communicate with us.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
Like
That's
Microsoft
fucked up.
being the fucking dick to Xbox and putting on this condom of Phil Spencer and being like,
I'm
"Here,
human. I'm
so
like
now
you.
Present
I live in a
yourself."
house. Like,
you're
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
no.
like, yeah, I know.
It's
Yeah,
odious from the get-go.
it is.
I.
Whereas what I'm trying to say is like these interviews and stuff, it's more in the tone of like business where they sort of they don't try and communicate on the same level, like you say, as Phil is like the human of
But
the
thing
sleeve.
is, though, like,
Whereas
this is what you get, though, okay?
they're more
Think
talking
this,
about
buddy.
the money side, though, not
I
the
get
creative
that, but
side.
think about this: like
You know?
conversations with Phil Spencer
Right.
are not about money. Though. It's
No,
almost
never,
as though
never.
It's
It's
literally
not.
think
And
about this.
he's the
Okay, think about
boss.
this
All the-
equivalence. It's as though you, in the Victorian era, were a man wanting to marry a woman, and you were going to her house. Suppose you're Phil Spencer, and you're going to go marry the woman. You don't want to go there and say, "I want to fuck you." You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I want your money.
I want
fuck
your
you.
money, I want
you
your-
don't want to
yeah.
express the object of your desire. You go there in this elaborate ritual guise, you know, with your costume, fucking, with your collar, and fucking people
Hello.
announcing you. This is Lord Phil Spencer of the House of Blah Blah. He's accomplished
10 billion
15
gamer
degrees.
score.
He has peacocks that live on his lawn. He has these credentials, a family. He's a human being. You want to marry him?
Yeah, yeah.
You know he only wants to impregnate you, but look at his qualifications. You know? No. I'm just trying to say, like, literally, like, this whole idea of appointing a fuckwit to go as your mouthpiece is odious as fuck.
But
Like,
that's
what are you
why,
doing?
like,
are you anthropomorphizing
when-
a corporation?
when-
that's fucking.
When people say that Xbox does X decision like as something, and they equate it to like Phil Spencer made that decision, I don't feel like it is. Like I have a hard time
Phil Spencer
believing
makes no decisions.
That's what I'm saying, but I've said that for fucking since day one. That we've been anytime
only
we've ever
capital makes
recorded
decisions, you
our
know?
fucking
I
voices.
think only
on
insofar as
fucking
you
thing,
can quantify
I've
what.
never.
Yeah, you're right.
I've
You're right
always
entirely.
thought
if I
he
never
has
said
been
anything else, you're right. You're
just
absolutely
like
right.
PR
He is
guy.
literally
He's
like
the
a Muppet.
communicator.
He's a
Yeah,
talker,
he's the
yeah.
dude. That's why, like,
The dude.
people talk about how, like, oh, Xbox has been doing so good lately, like, and they attribute it to, like, oh, Phil Spencer's doing a great job. I don't think he actually does anything outside of, like you said, you're the sleeve of the fucking brand to be like, hey, I'm a human too. Look
human
at
puppet.
me.
Yeah.
My kids
Oh, it's
play
almost
Xbox
depressing.
and PlayStation. Like, right? He's not actually.
And that fucking
he doesn't actually
awful.
do fucking.
I'm sorry, like
make
I just
decisions
cannot
and
stand
shit,
that
like.
fucking incessant like It's all good. I don't care if you fucking just fucking beat the shit out of me.
Craig!
It's great. Oh.
You're right. It was
Oh
shit.
my God. This to me, again, it's just this fucking infinitely indifferent, sublimating, amorphous face of capital, just
Yeah, just slurping
sucking
on
in
itself.
all things,
yeah.
all opposition, just turning everything into the same.
Oh.
Just that's why, like, that's why, like, honestly, again, I'm not a retard. I know that. I don't care. Fuck it. I know that all
The
fucking
third time.
brands.
Now you're
Yeah.
concerned.
I'm not concerned. I just see. I too.
We're nobody.
I too am
Fuck you.
poisoned by
Complain
the
about us. I don't give a shit.
I legitimately don't give a shit. If you do give a shit, though, I'd like to talk to you. I'd like you to come on
Tweet
here and
about
talk
us.
to me about it.
Tell me about
That'd be
fucking
fantastic.
Sorry.
Publicize us. You know, maybe CTV will make a fucking
A documentary about how fucking
those foul mouth
fucking
denigrating
add us to
fucking
the terrorist
podcasters
list.
from terrorists. Fucking, you know.
I was about to say something, but let's not.
Yeah, maybe we should not go down this fucking. It's getting any further.
This is as
fucking-
far as we'll go.
What the hell were we gonna say though? That was important. I
Oh
forgot.
man, we were on to something. We totally flubbed ourselves.
Yeah, we flubbed
It
it.
was about Phil Spencer for sure.
Yeah.
No.
This is it.
You got it.
I was gonna say I'm not a retard. I understand that most companies are like this. You know,
Yeah, sure.
Most
fine, to a
companies-
certain extent.
most companies, every company.
No, I
really.
guess,
If you,
yeah.
even my company, if I were to employ other human beings and fucking, you know, do things that fucking compromise the fucking integrity of the nature of the thing for the sake of capital, that would be the same thing, right? Like, the point is that it's an inescapable thing, but most companies are fucking. Again, I always resort to this metaphor because I know people don't like it, of taking a shit, you know? It's like taking a shit, man. Everybody has to take a shit.
Everybody
Like,
has
this
to
is-
take shit, definitely.
Unless we want to talk about changing the world, which I'm happy to talk about, but that's not this conversation. It's like taking a shit. You just got to live in it, man. You know, we live in the fucking world. But what we don't got to do is open our mouths and smile and just pretend that it's the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
And that it's all awesome, and that it's God's gift to the fucking world.
Fuck
Literally,
that,
that's
dude.
why, like, I think, like, that putrescent fucking blog post of Phil Spencer about games and math and shit like that other year, that was like
we're still talking about that, but
man,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
telling you, like that was a special symbolic event in the history of the video game industry. That was that fucking instance where
An underground like culture shift almost, right?
yes,
like
but it was an instance
totally
where
under
the
radar.
capital acknowledged its fucking license to bleed outwards and to say more, you know, and to be like, no, it's not really just capital. The seductiveness of capital was extended, you know? That's horrifying. It's literally
Ugh.
like a new kind of coding. It's a new kind of seduction. A new kind of like a way of infiltrating and fucking capitalizing fucking individuals.
How would you
know?
like put that literally? Like I'm thinking
That
like,
is literally how I would
what-
put it, like-
what do you mean? Like people like reading that and are like, oh, like I agree with this so much. Like
Because
this
now,
is my fucking
things
brand.
that were
like
previously neutral territory have become commoditized. New ground for the Xbox brand. You know? New territory. Territorialized. That's a good word. You know? Now when you think about those things, what do you think about? Right? Like, I'm trying to say like going to the moon. Who put this flag there? Russia or fucking the USA, right? Like, that sense. It's territorialized. It's staking out a new brand for capital, which now is almost more important than running a mine or building things. It's way more important. Why is Tesla trading so high? It has nothing to do with what they produce. Production is useless. It has nothing to do with anything anymore. We
That's
live in the pure
awful.
age of self-circulating signification, right? Like, yeah, man. That's why I'm saying fucking something like that Phil Spencer blog
Bro,
post.
you know what's the
Bro,
scariest
it's evil,
thing
evil
about
shit.
that?
You know?
And I've been thinking about this the last couple of fucking days, is that Reddit, and I found that subreddit beforehand. The Reddit fucking gang, you know, invested in GameStop and caused that thing. And then I've heard in the past of a ton of fucking stocks going up and down because of single fucking billionaires tweeting. And then of course fucking the other day you hear about fucking Elon Musk tweets about how Tesla is looking to accept bitcoins for car purchases one day, and then the next morning Bitcoin surges. Like it's almost like
But like,
what?
Okay, listen,
Just
listen.
follow fucking Elon Musk's tweets and fucking
Let me
invest
translate
in like
that for you,
every
though, right?
fucking stock
Is
he
this not the
mentions.
perfect?
What the
There is
fuck?
literally no better way to say what I have been
Jesus.
saying this whole time than what you just said, bro. That there is no such thing as reference anymore. The system of signs is self-sufficient. Literally, its apex denotes its content. All that is required for profit is that the structure denotes its own profitability. Elon,
So
at his place of
we're-
not making any money, is denoting the profitability of the structure. I'm just saying, like, that's
With
what's
a
going on.
tweet. Okay, so hold on. What you're telling me is like now more than anything, it should be easier and easier to be a fucking goddamn day
Oh,
trader.
no, but think about
because
it, bro.
you fucking
think
all
about
you,
it.
what, all
I
you
think
do is-
you are not appreciating the magnitude of this. Okay, listen.
it scares
Listen
me
about,
the magnitude.
listen.
Man.
The magnitude of this is such that there is the real world of stuff which anybody might think of as valuable. Just commonsensically, you're like, oh, I'm working for
Right.
money because money represents stuff. No, money no longer represents shit. It does not. It does not, man. That is the delusion that most
What is
people
it? The
labor under,
imaginary
perhaps.
fucking goal for
No.
fucking
Now
like,
money is an internal it is like a video game, an internal simulation subsuming things. You know what I mean? Money,
Yeah.
quote unquote. It's a stupid word. It's almost like a mystical idea. It's almost like a godlike simulation of the market, the system, the code, the totality. You know what I mean? It doesn't work that way anymore. Now, the internal rules of the structure are what defines things. And this is fucked up because whilst that structure is fictional as Middle Earth. Literally, as fictional as Middle Earth or more. The fucking problem is now people who live in the world who control what we might call the means of coercion, the guns, the money, this, the that.
stock
They
market.
use that to fucking change shit in the world, man.
That's
Do you understand
scary.
why that's fucked up?
So like it's
You know
like
what I
we're
mean?
moving further and further away from reality until like
Yes,
what? Like how do what
but
do you fucking
more
call
than that,
this?
more than that we're moving away from it. There is no longer a possibility of even reference to a reality at all. It's integrated entirely into that.
Yeah, like
everything
we're
you
way
do.
beyond recovery.
You
is
have
what
a
you're
baby,
saying, right?
You have
Yeah.
a baby, you have a child. Your life story is fucking systematized and represented, internalized in simulacra into the system, which, by the way, perpetuates and profits the system, of course, right? But I'm just saying, like, what you already know, of course, that every action you take, even if you were to want to burn down the system commoditizes and fucking capitalizes that reality. Any protest, there's no measure you could take against it other than sheer, utter, symbolic fucking reduction, the sheer, utter exposure of its fucking insufficiency. That is the only recourse. You could die. You could literally kill yourself, and the system can compute that. It can render that profitable. You know what I
Jesus
mean?
Christ.
You could
Yeah,
commit
I
a
guess,
crime, and
yeah.
it will turn you into something in the benefit of itself. No measure of human. You could nuke Nagasaki. You know what I mean? It sounds funny, but bro, it's fucking horrifying
shit. Yeah. yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the system can compute that shit. You can do anything other than. That's why Zizek says, like Gandhi, his only fucking act of resistance was to say, well, fuck, if this is the world you're gonna fucking make me live in, fuck you, bitch.
Fuck you. Yeah.
I'm not gonna fucking live in that world, right? Like, symbolically, right? Like you fucking partake in a symbolic death. It's not like the non-violence that I'm speaking to. In fact, I'm speaking to
It's
the
sort of
opposite.
just being like,
The
you know, I'm
severe
not
symbolic
gonna
violence.
participate.
It
Fuck
is
you.
a severe symbolic
Yeah.
form of violence. It is a dislocation of the self within the system. You know what I mean? The total effacement of the total structure of meaning. That's why, you know, Deleuze says philosophy, art, games, I would say, are war machines. Their fucking job is to expose the outside of the system to people in the inside. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you play a game. You know what you do? You're not. It's facile. If single player games are dying, it's because they retain an element at a distance from that system, you know?
Yeah.
An
So they're
autotelic element,
almost
and their own
purposely
circuit.
phased out of it because it
They
doesn't,
cannot
yeah.
so be totalized and
Yeah.
commoditized. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yes. Anything exterior to that fucking metric, you know, that fucking loop. It's, again, it's abstract. We can't apply a word to its matter because it literally is all things. Capital is, you know what I mean? It encompasses all. It's a quantitative equivalence of all things. You can systematize everything. Literally, terrorism, murder, nuclear weapons, everything is computable in the system. You know, any fucking kind of degradation of the human form, it swells that any participation in the socius at all swells that metric, you know? And that is literally what fucking the Xbox brand is tapping. That's what you're doing, bro.
Yeah.
When you fucking do things like, well, we'd like to take video games and locate them in this realm of profitability and sociability. What they actually do is educate people, quote,
Ugh.
and in brackets, to be good capitalists, to make some money for some fucking idiot somewhere, and to starve and die one day alone with cancer. You know what I mean? Like,
At the end of the day, to me, what it seems like is almost like trying to sink the brand that makes a shit ton of money, but to also just kind of make them seem
it's dishonest
somewhat,
ideological
it's
fucking
dishonest
warfare,
for sure,
bro.
but it's like to
That's
make them
what it is.
seem like humanist in any way possible. To you know,
You know
what
what
I mean? To
I was
sorta-
just saying, you know, if
like how you
if
describe
art is
film.
supposed to be a war machine, its job is to destroy that structure of meaning entirely, like Gandhi, quote unquote. Its job is to enter into things and take you and blow it apart, just like intoxication, just like fucking philosophy, et cetera, et cetera. You know, if that's its job, then the job of the Xbox brand is the exact opposite. Its job is to imprison you in that sphere, you know? That's its fucking denuding, self-replicating, awful,
Yeah.
homeo fucking...
glorified cult with a subscription
Yeah.
fee and
Yeah.
an infrastructure online server.
It's almost like,
and,
what's that word? Homologous. It's homologous, you know? Homologizing.
Yes, that's the word.
Homologizing
Exactly what I
is
was
the
thinking.
word. Yes, homologizing. Yes. And that's where we stand. So now...
So I think if sorry,
no, please.
if you were going somewhere, because all I'm gonna say
I'm
is
going
that
nowhere other than that.
I would like a fucking another sip of beer and
I'm not in a rush. I don't give a
we
fuck.
should set up multiple shows. Philosophy under the influence.
We should do
video
that,
game
but-
philosophy under the influence.
but
video
though-
game. Anyway,
This
we didn't
this
get
is-
into
this is-
anything we want to talk about.
I
That's
think though we
fine.
can now, like, if anybody even give a fuck to listen that long, buddy, pull open a few things on the news, and I bet you they will look, even to you, different than they did before we fucking talked about it. Just refresh this page here at M4G, you know, and go to fucking week down there, hottest week, you know. Okay, isn't that a great place to start?
Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Let's
censored.
apply our theory to this concept. What happens here? Mass Effect Legendary, like, of course. Of course, neither of us care about the asses in Mass Effect.
What the fuck is going on here, dude?
They changed some of the camera angles in Mass Effect 2, I believe.
To not show butts?
Yeah, to not show Miranda her butt.
Why?
I don't know. Because there was a strange and overly sexual focus on her ass in those cutscenes.
Which
And
is
some people are
awful,
pissed
of
about
course,
that.
right?
Of course, it's contrary to this or that kind of... Now, personally, I don't give a fuck. I don't think this represents anything on a moral spectrum of any value whatsoever. But
Yeah.
what we do note in this is exactly the kind of adjustment to the market that we were just talking about. There is a quantifiable situation that is being taken into account. They are saying, this is what we are measuring the truth against now, and it is coming up deficient, and so we will modify it, right? This exposes exactly those
But-
kinds of fucking...
This fucking it irritates the shit out of me.
What is that?
Because let's say they didn't do any of that and just didn't mention it. Are you telling me there's a legitimate reason to do it, or is it just strictly
Buddy, the
a
reason
promotional
might be,
reason
like
to
we just
say
said,
that they
we
did-
just said the whole point of the two-party system, quote unquote, is to provide that appearance of difference necessary for the simulation of movement, you know? Why would they do it? Because now they're talking about that they did. You know, the very act of doing it institutes the reality of their political
Right.
fucking updatedness. You know what I mean? Like, that is the fucking fact of it. There's nothing else to it. Well, they didn't really change. No. They changed in the act. The act of doing it is their institution symbolically of the whole thing, right? Like, I'm just trying to say, like, That is the index, the capital, quote unquote, the imminent metric, internalizing change. You know what I mean? Internalizing the difference of the current age, you know?
Fuck off.
It's not immune to it, right? Like, you say anything that you want, man. You fucking postulate any society, and fucking, you know, your communism will shit out a Stalinistic fucking dictatorship at the end of the day, in the sense that there will always be a big other. You know, you're always going to operate within that system, right? Like, it's inescapable. That's why, like, you know, ultimately I would disagree with Zizek believes his fundamental idea is that there's no such thing, and that ultimately it's possible to communicate outside of those bounds, but his is just a leftist Hegelian other of lack, you know. Extensively I argue about that too. And it's important for video games because that universalizes what we're talking about right now. Nobody's going to escape this, you know? And we find games like what we're watching right now, this is fucking blasphemous. Yeah. And we can situate this on that spectrum and say, like, in the same manner that the fucking, you know, all of these crazy things, like, go on in the world and they fucking end up at the top of the fucking chain, like, turning good things into bad things, like, they also provide at the bottom. Like, it's like a nuclear garden, you know, another metaphor I like to use. It's like you dumped a shit ton of fertilizer in the fucking waste, and now all kinds of crazy shit's growing, man.
And you've lost control.
You have no
of it,
control over the bottom substrate. It's, you know, it's fucking just exploding. Fucking all kinds of stuff's coming out from the bottom layer, man. It's crazy. That's the good stuff of it, you know? There's this baroqueness to the bottom layer of the system. I like being down here in that sense, right? Like, we get to see this just explosion of difference, like all kinds of crazy stuff that almost is contradictory to the whole train of everything, right? Like, how do we fucking, you know, man, like, I really think, like, in the same way that you could do this dialectical theory of all history, from, like, slavery to feudalism to fucking industrialism and all this shit, like, you could do, like, a theory of video games, like, and how they fucking progressed in their form.
That might be an idea,
you know?
yeah.
And how they ultimately,
yeah.
like, came back to their, to
You
how
could
they
probably
were, like,
cut a clear path since, like, when
Yeah.
we were born, and or even earlier, because video games have been, you can trace
but
the roots
how
back.
crazy is that circularity? That's exactly what we're getting at, right? Look at this, you know? What are we playing? What are we doing?
This is blasphemous, and it looks like a fucking sick fucking 2D, like, Super Nintendo game.
Oh, it does, but its whole purpose is to fucking
Yeah.
to rip on another thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
yeah, I think it's also tapping for that reason into that aura, you know? Like, we see this and we think of something more than it is. There's, like, this universalization of it. It's crazy. All things have this like, symbolic aura, you know? Something like capitalism or capital or, you know, whatever. It's Marxist or bourgeois variants. It just exploits, right? Like, but in art, it's perfect. It absorbs us, you know? That's why looking at this, you become, like, immersed in that cycle of exchange. You're just like a point in that fucking structure, and it's beautiful, right? You're sublimated.
That's what got me into Shovel Knight. When I first played Shovel Knight on the PS Vita, I don't know what it was, but it sucked me in right away, dude. Just like that, like, it was like the chiptune music that reminded me of fucking sick fucking Super Nintendo games, and, you know, the same aesthetic that's going on here. Even Bloodstained, even though it's like
Yeah, Bloodstained was pretty. It was a cool
fucking
game.
nice graphics and everything, but at the end of the
It was a
day, it's
cool
like
game.
a fucking 2D fucking, you know?
Yeah, that's why, you know, bro, like, I think, like, do you still have a few minutes? Can we talk a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I got a few more left in me.
We don't have
and
to
I think,
fucking edit any of this.
No,
right?
no, no.
I think, like, to bring it all back around to video games, like, that's why it's so fucking sick to play things like that. Is what is Souls then, you know? Like, surely the market has fucking commoditized Souls too, blah, 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 blah. But, like,
Oh, yeah. It's
in its
successful,
essence, though, what
yeah.
it was at the beginning is a rejection of the fucking very concept of accessibility, which means market quantifiability, which
It's
means,
almost like,
you know, like,
removing the option of having, like, most games had, like, you know, normal, and then if you wanted the challenge, sure, here it is, but you have to enable it, right?
It's
but, like,
parochial in a way
it's
that-
accessible for most people to just blow through normal or whatever. Anyway, that's removing that.
That's why I
right?
think
like
that we have this, like, weird fucking situation where things are, like, a little bit, like, retrograde in a way that
Yeah.
I fucking think is amazing. Of course,
It kind of in
Baroque,
a some
yeah.
kind of vein is the same thing where you're
Yeah.
rejecting like
Yeah.
the fucking 3D, the newest fucking graphics, ray tracing, this,
Yeah.
that, and it's like, well, I just like,
Yeah.
it's a preference too, right?
Do you
Like,
think you could handle it for 1 second too?
yeah, I'm good, man. Falling back on our old fucking, even somewhat like our roots, what we grew up playing, or what has worked for us in the past, and it's all fucking good.
All right.
Okay,
I don't know if any of you guys are still here, but it's been a fucking great time. Thank you for listening to our ramblings. Next week, I definitely intend to turn this into fucking... We'll make it a part 2, man. Let's go fucking... I'm going to think.
balls
about
off
some
the
of the
wall.
best-
Philosophy under the influence.
But even just applying that to the fucking things that we have seen in the past couple of years, I think would be super interesting, you know? It's an exploration for me, too, because these are just ideas that I've come upon myself recently. It'd be cool to fucking see how that plays
sort of
out.
fucking
Yeah, let's
crack
fucking
this
do
open
that.
a little
Yeah,
bit more.
let's
I'm
see-
down.
let's-
I'm down.
let's-
I'm
Let's
down.
see the past few years. You know, we talked about the video game counter revolution, like...
Maybe we didn't fucking dive into that enough. I kind
Yeah.
of.
This is a new take on that. It'll be
yeah.
a new perspective. Let's take a look at that. You know,
The counter revolution.
and how that fucking works.
If anybody's still here, thanks for fucking tuning in and
We love you. Thank you very much. It's been excellent. Take care of yourselves.
Fucking do.